The Nintendo Switch 1 is definitely an amazing console. It has over like 10,000 games that you can choose to play. And honestly, this is pretty fantastic. Recently, there's been an unveiling that this could potentially have a larger lifespan than anyone could have predicted. In this video, we'll be discussing about a recent post and also games that could be affecting the Nintendo ecosystem and so much more. Let's get straight into the video. So now, when we take a look at this is definitely really awesome. Now, it seems off of this post right here, Nintendo is going to be bringing the Nintendo Switch 1 to India, which is a place that never had the Nintendo Switch ever before. And honestly, this is pretty fantastic. It seems also one of the main reasons that they're doing this is potentially to make the Nintendo Switch 1 the best-selling console of all time. Because if you look at it, the Nintendo Switch 1 has sold around 155 million units, which is definitely crazy, and they're about 5 million away from the PS2. So imagine how great that would look for investors to say, hey, Nintendo, you got the greatest selling system of all time. And plus, it would be a massive achievement for that. Now, what exactly could this mean? Usually when you re-release a system, you're probably going to need games to go along with that system. Of course, you could just re-release the Nintendo Switch 1 and say, hey, you got over 10,000 games to choose from, so I hope you enjoy. Of course, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is probably going to still be on that top front, but they're probably also going to be releasing some other games that are going to be scheduled to come. So then you could pick up a Nintendo Switch 1 if you want to, pick it up, get Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Mario Odyssey, and then you can be excited for something to be releasing later on in the year. That definitely does make the most sense because usually there wouldn't be really a method to buying a console, or should we say a 10-year-old console, if the console would be essentially end of life. It seems like that's not going to be the case for the Nintendo Switch 1. It could probably last up to like 2030 or probably even longer, 2032, an extra 5 years. This console could be supported for 15 years, which definitely would be crazy. I don't think the Nintendo eShop is going to be closing anytime soon, but what could this mean for the actual games? So if you look back, Nintendo loves to port over their old games on the Nintendo Switch. This system has like over 200 different ports from different games. Well, for starters, it has the entire Xenoblade collection. It has pretty much all the Luigi's Mansion games, most of the Kirby games, most of the Zelda games, most of the Mario games. Really, when you come to think about it, with Mario, you're only missing Mario 3D Land, which honestly is definitely a really crazy thing. So I honestly believe that the Nintendo Switch 1 is going to be the system of remasters moving forward, because I would say that it's a little old to get actual new games, because then it would kind of be restricting for Nintendo to work on the Switch 1 as well and then release the games that are meant for the Switch 2 instead of having like essentially unlimited power, because about the Switch 2 is maybe like 4 times more powerful than the original Nintendo Switch. So it just wouldn't make too much sense to release like one of those powerful games. Like if they were going to re-release Donkey Kong Bonanza on the Switch 1, it definitely could be possible, but it's not going to be as like good and efficient as the Switch 2 was playing that game. So I definitely don't believe that that's going to be happening. But if you look at like the ports and things that you could be seeing, yeah, that would definitely be a great sort of carried over game that you can just get for your Switch 1. Like, for example, that supposed leaked and rumored Kirby Planet Robot Triple Deluxe game might actually be coming true because of this whole revolution. If they're going to release the Nintendo Switch 1 and give it a longer lifespan, well, getting remasters and ports, they will definitely work on the system. Like, there's no question about it that those games will just work on that system. If you look at it, we've wanted Twilight Princess and we wanted the Wind Waker HD. If they wanted to release it, well then they could also just release more ports. So I honestly believe that if they're going to actually do this, this would be great for seeing more ports and remasters and remakes. Like this year, it actually might seem that we are going to be getting the Wind Waker and the Twilight Princess HD for just because the Switch 1 players, the Switch 2 player base isn't as big as the Switch 1, so obviously it would be a great sell to just say, here you go to 150 million. Let's just say it's 155 million copies of the Nintendo Switch. With the Switch 2, it's about 20 million. So obviously, if you wanted to sell a game like that, there probably would be a lot of sales for that. And then Ocarina of Time would be a Switch 2 exclusive. So things like that definitely could happen. Of course, there still is going to be like third-party games on the Nintendo Switch 1, because the Nintendo Switch 1 for third-party indie games, that works perfectly fine. If you look at it, Hollow Knight Silk Song, you also had Hades 2, you also had so many games that worked really, really great on the Nintendo Switch 1. And you can't take that away now, because if you really wanted to, like, still to this day, I will go back on the Nintendo Switch 1 just to play like Switch 1 games. If there's a game that doesn't have a Switch 2 exclusive, well, Switch OLED is honestly the best bet. It has a better battery life and the screen just looks beautiful. So if you want to release that, re-releasing games would be just such a good option. So honestly, seeing an extended life for the system is honestly amazing, because we can finally see this being the best-selling console of all time. We can finally see more and more games make their way to the system, not main Nintendo games, like not the first-party good stuff, the goodness, but we're also going to be seeing different things, like the first-party, the ports, that games that already happened. That right there makes the most sense. If you wanted to later, you can just get a Switch 1 cartridge, port those games over, call it a day, and then add a Switch 2 upgrade, because the Switch 2 only has a 64GB cartridge, a 32, and I believe they're working on more cartridges, but right now it seems like those ones are the key ones. But if you wanted just the full third-party indie game, well, obviously Nintendo Switch 1 is the way to go. So yeah, I definitely think that this is a really great thing. I hope the Indian market sells at least 5 million units, because then the Switch 1 is going to be the best-selling console in the world. And this is great for Nintendo. Yeah, this is pretty much great for Nintendo. They can say, hey, we got the best-selling Nintendo console in the world. It's going to be so sad when we discontinue it in like 5 years, because it's going to be 15 years old, which by 2017 standards, this console was already outdated. So yeah, surviving for 15 years is really crazy. Like, it's actually crazy. Nintendo knows how to squish the absolute most out of their consoles. So I honestly believe we are going to be getting more remasters and more remasters. Yeah, I was going to say remakes, but more remasters on the Switch 1, because the life cycle is going to be expanded, and you can easily just take your Switch 1 game, throw it on the Switch 2, call it a day. Just like Super Mario Galaxy 1+2. So honestly wonder what type of games we are going to be seeing in the future. Are we going to be seeing more remasters and remakes in 2026? I think the answer is yes. Are we going to be seeing in 2027? Probably. 28, 29? Most likely as well. The Switch isn't going anywhere anytime soon, so you don't have to worry. If you're still on Nintendo Switch 1, you're still going to be getting games. Just not the games that they're marketing as Switch 2 because you need the power. You probably get something else as well. Anyways, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this is a great time to be a Nintendo fan, or not so much? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Consider that like button, maybe subscribing if you're new. We do a bunch of different Nintendo content on this channel. Anyways, see you in the next one.